Hello Venbooks users, and welcome to the tip of the week, episode 6. Today we're going to talk about expenses in more detail. Now there are videos on your dashboard here that you can access. Expenses quick guide, and then a little bit more detail there, but I'm going to go over this and consolidate all this into one video here and show around a few things. Those videos on the training thing are about a couple years old, so there might be a new feature here or there that will come up. So first you click on expenses at the top of your screen. Okay, so you have three categories here. You have the manage your expense categories, and then logging day-to-day expenses, and then you have the run reports, or to go in and edit your individual expense entries, stuff like that, you would do from here. So let's start over here in the category section. The default categories that everyone sees on their account are these ones that say mute, and it's only too long. So this one, characterization of act, number of notarizations, number of pages printed, which I'm going to talk about in a second. It's kind of unique. It's not what it sounds like. And then miles. So if you don't want any of these default categories to appear on your any reports, or in the case if they're an order tracking expense, you don't want it to appear on your individual orders, then you just click the mute like I did for number of pages printed, so it doesn't show up on my individual order summaries, just so you know what I mean there. Let's see here. Let me open an order real quick. Let's click on any random order. So you have this expenses section here. So these are the expense categories that have been added, and the default ones that are designated as order tracking expenses. These are ones where you have an opportunity to type in some sort of value that's related to an individual order. Most obvious example of this is mileage, right? You might have a tolls expense, a parking expense. You might work with a couple notaries using the same Venbooks account, and you guys might want to choose who did the signing. So you can put your name and someone else's name, or if you work with a spouse, whatever, and you can choose who did it. So that's kind of a statistical value and not a monetary one, which I'll get to in a second. That's kind of it just worked very well within this framework to do the statistical categories in here, even though they're not dealing with money. But anyway, the number of pages printed is an order tracking expense, and it's not showing on this list. It's because it's muted. Now, expense categories are not designated as order tracking expenses. Let's say, how about E&O insurance, for example, or background check, or NNA fees. You're not going to put a value in for this individual order here, or any individual order ever. All right, it's paid for by the month, by the year, whatever, and so it doesn't need to show on this list. So when you create that expense category for background check, for example, you would not check that box for it to be an order tracking expense. If you did, it would appear on this list, and you just never type in a value there, and it would be just kind of annoying seeing it there, knowing you're never going to type a value in there. So back to the expense menu. So like here's one for E&O insurance that did not appear on that list because when it was created under settings, this box was not checked. If we did, then it would show up. If I click this and hit save, it would show up with those other expenses on that order we were just looking at. And that's, so the number of pages printed I was going to get into real quick. Now you don't need to if you have more questions on this, definitely feel free to call. But there are a lot of notaries out there that use alternative accounting method for their office supplies, and it's similar to how they do their car. So you're not expensing your gas or your new tires or repair your insurance, whatever, on your vehicle. You're just doing the 67 cents per mile. And if you you're doing the same thing with the number of pages printed. So instead of expensing those reams of paper that you're buying, that toner you're buying, the new drum for your printer, pens, whatever your supplies are that you buy on a regular basis, being a notary signing agent, you would not expense all those individually, you would instead set a multiplier. Most people use 4 for that basic, what I just listed out. Some will use 5, 6, or 7, or even 8 cents if they're including their fancy dual tray printer and their high-speed scanner and their laptop. If they're including all those items in there too, you can make this an 8-cent per page multiplier. And what that means is when you buy a new printer, you're not writing off that new printer. Just like when you buy a new car, you're not writing off the value of the new car, your car payment or whatever, because that is, unless the business actually owns the car and not you, but that's a whole separate thing. No one's doing that. So you would do the same thing here with the number of pages printed. So say this is set for 5 cents, so you have a 100-page refinance package. Let's see, say it might even sound small. You're going to print out a copy paper package for the leave behind with the borrower. So that's 200 pages. You'd plug 200 pages in on the individual order. If I didn't have it muted, I could have shown you that real time, and it would calculate out to 200 pages times 5 cents. What's that? $10. So that'll be a $10 expense, and that's it. Now you don't have to worry about logging all those supplies and paper and toner and all that stuff, and just punch the number of pages in as you do your orders. No, lots of notaries that did both for a whole year just to see how it played out, and they just muted off their profit and loss, the one they ended up choosing. So they kept track of everything individually, and they kept track of all the pages printed, and they ended up, in every case at least that I've spoken to, they ended up using the number of pages printed. It worked out a little, they came out a little bit ahead on that one, and it was so much easier. So that's that, but if you're just going to do it the traditional way and account for all your expenses, your supplies and all that stuff the normal way, then just go ahead and click the mute button so it shows as muted here. It would look like that, and you can just not worry about that. So adding an expense category is easier. You can type it here ahead of time if you want, or you can just click here and type it in, and let's just call it example expense. And this is going to be monetary, dealing with money. Like I mentioned earlier, there was that alternative accounting expense category that's not really expense related. We call it statistical, where it just works exactly the same way as an expense within the same framework. It's just dealing with words or numbers that you're not going to be adding up or whatever that you might want to keep track of. And there's a ton of flexibility with that statistical tracking one. You can create little drop-down menus. Actually, I'll show you real quick. Let's go to the type of signing. This is one that I see a lot of people do. Edit that category. And here we go. So this is already built for you, but you would type in the name of the signing, I'm sorry, the name of the list, and then the different types of values. You want to add another value in there. I could do REO and pre-signing, loan application, whatever they're called. So that's how that works. Obviously, it's got nothing to do with money, but on your individual signings, let's reload this. It's got those new options on there. Type of signing, we're going to update that and pick from the list. This was a seller only. Save, and now you have this out of the way. So not really an expense, but works great in that framework. All right, let's go back to monetary stuff. And okay, come back to this page here. So we want to add a new category. Let's just go through these features. We'll call this a example expense. Dealing with money. Now this P&L memo item only, you're really going to use it. If you hover your mouse over there, it'll explain it a little better, but there's only one example of a monetary expense category. That's the P&L item only, and that is your number of notarizations. The number of notarizations times the most you're allowed to charge for a notarial act in your state, which you're able to remove from your net income before you're doing your self-employment tax calculation, which is 15.3% of your net income. For those states that allow you to charge a lot, like $15, which is California, Oregon, there's a bunch of other states, and there's several $10 ones out there. Most are around $5, but that adds up to a large amount. why do we get on this? Because that is a P&L memo item only, which means on your profit and loss report, when you generate it, it's going to show up as a memo item at the end, because again, it doesn't affect your net income and your regular tax. It just affects that self-employment tax portion of your when you're doing your federal taxes. So if you come up with some other category you want to show up on your profit and loss, but not have it be part of the net profit and just show at the end a value or whatever, then feel free to click on that and create your category for that. So if this is something you want to appear on all your individual order summaries, then you would check this box. So let's check it. And let's say it uses a multiplier. Let's have some fun with this. Let's call this a tolls expense, and you have a toll that's $4, or we'll call it a bridge expense. You have a bridge when you go east, and it is $4 each way. So you're going to say this is a multiplier, and you want to cross it's $4 per times you cross that bridge. And now this is a little scary for non-tech savvy, but don't be scared of it. So it's called popular dynamic tags. So right here, what you type is going to show up on the individual order summaries when you do your run a report on this expense category, or you run a report on all your expenses. This is itemized. This is what's going to show in the description line. So this would be, let's say, make something up as bridge expense for, expense for crossing Big Bridge for order number, and then that's where these popular dynamic tags come in handy. You want to throw the order number on there. So click a little copy, come over here, paste, and put those squiggly brackets, order ID, so you can put anything you want in here. You can use, like, if you wanted to add after this, while driving to, and then you can copy this, and we'll put the name of the city and put stay after if you want to. So you can have fun with it, but basically having the order number is something you definitely want to have for all your order tracking expenses. Is you use these little squiggly brackets and put the order number in there, and then put some verbiage before or after it, so it makes sense of the order number. So you have a bridge to the east called the Big Bridge, and every time you cross it, it's $4, and so this is what's going to show in the description if you do add a value here. And so we'll save that. We'll pick a random order to see that in action. Click on expenses, and let's type in a value of 2. Save, and you'll see that's $8, and that's how that works. And let's see what else is on this expense settings. Let's pick one. Oh, how about this? The only part we didn't show you was this batch edit entry section. So let's say it's February 1st and you did 20 signings in January, and you realize, oh boy, I didn't change the mileage multiplier to match the new IRS. Let's say they go to 69 cents. So in this case, you would change it to 69 cents per mile, and then you would click this to apply it retroactively. Now, if you want to change every order in your account, then you would just leave this as all time. In case of mileage, of course, you don't want to change the previous years. You just want to change it back to January 1st of the current year. So you would click on this, which would toggle it, click on the date range, click apply. So now it's got every basically you could have done this year as another option and changed it to whatever it was supposed to be, and click save, and it'll go through and retroactively update all your orders within this date range without touching the prior ones. So this is going to be a common exercise every year with the mileage, with you needing to update it when the IRS updates their value, and you'll come in here and change it here, and that will work on every order from that moment moving forward. And then you'd come down here to the batch edit entries and just retroactively apply it. And like I was saying before, if it's February 1st 2025 and you realize you need to update your orders back to the beginning January 1st, you just click on here, click on this year, and when we're this year, sorry to highlight, it'll just show the dates for the current year, which in that case in 2025 we'll just take you back to January 21st, and we'll leave everything in 2024 as 67 cents. So okay, now let's go talk about how to add, so we know how to add values to orders when the expense category is designated as an order tracking expense. Means you want an opportunity to type in a value on your individual orders. But what about everything else? Your generic expenses, buying a background check, your E&O insurance, stuff like that. That's just a general counting entry. So you come here to log day-to-day expenses.